Cops wrongfully handcuffed black female
All
general.
right, seal
Her
off the
call to the
perimeter.
Pentagon
Nobody goes
destroyed
in
their
or out until we
careers.
clear this.
She stood tall in full military
Get your
dress,
hands off me! I am
decorations
a general
shining,
in the army!
insignia
Stop
unmistakable.
resisting! You
Yet
are
the
under
moment she
arrest!
exited her government-issued vehicle outside a secured facility, two police officers closed in. Their tone was sharp, their body language hostile. When she calmly identified herself, they chuckled and said a real general wouldn't be a black woman with braids. Without a second thought, and in full view of shocked bystanders, they restrained her wrists and placed her in the back of their squad car. But their smug confidence was short-lived, because the woman they had just humiliated was none other than Major General Alana Greer, a two-star officer with a direct line to the Pentagon, and the call she made from inside that vehicle would trigger the end of their law enforcement careers before sunset. With 28 years of distinguished service, Alana had commanded troops overseas, briefed U.S. presidents, and led emergency missions around the globe. Yet in that moment, her uniform and decades of sacrifice weren't enough to shield her from the weight of bias. She had been heading to deliver a high-level classified report in D.C., and with her security detail delayed, she parked nearby and walked the remaining block in full military attire. As she retrieved briefing documents from her car, the officers approached, responding to a vague complaint about someone in suspicious tactical gear. She greeted them respectfully and showed her identification, but one officer smirked and asked where she got that outfit. When she answered with her rank and department, the other officer dismissed it as a joke, demanding real ID. Her repeated warnings that they were detaining a federal official fell on deaf ears. Despite her uniform and security credentials, they had already made up their minds. She didn't fit the mold of who they believed belonged in power. She was handcuffed, and a small crowd gathered. Someone began recording. Alana didn't raise her voice. She simply leaned forward and told them this would be a short error with lifelong repercussions. From the back seat, she reached into her uniform's inner pocket and pulled out a secure satellite phone designated for emergencies. She dialed Lieutenant General Royce at the Pentagon and detailed the incident, names, timestamps, and the growing number of witnesses. Within minutes, the matter was escalated to Homeland Security, the Department of Defense legal team, and the Inspector General's office. What had just occurred wasn't only disrespectful, it was a breach of protocol, a legal violation, and a textbook case of racial profiling now backed by video evidence. Moments later, dispatch instructed the two units to hold their position and await supervisory command. The responding sergeant pulled up fast. When he saw who was sitting cuffed in the cruiser, his face drained of color. "General Greer," he stammered, scrambling for words. She stepped out, composed, calmly smoothing her uniform. One officer began a half-hearted apology, but she stopped him. "You don't apologize just to keep your job," she said quietly. "You apologize when you recognize the gravity of your actions." The sergeant assured her the issue had already been elevated to federal review and internal investigation. But the damage was irreversible. The footage, already circulating online, caught fire within hours, and with the Pentagon's attention, disciplinary action moved swiftly, because Alana Greer wasn't just any officer. She was a high-ranking symbol of what discipline, service, and dignity looked like, and she had just turned their prejudice into the very mistake that would cost them everything. She was a trusted federal asset, and she knew how to fight back by the book. By the end of the day, both officers were removed from duty and placed on immediate leave. A full inquiry was initiated by Internal Affairs. And once the body cam footage was verified and matched against Alana's Department of Defense credentials, the city's leadership issued a formal statement condemning the incident. The Pentagon released a firm response, calling the treatment of Major General Greer not only a disgrace to her decorated military record, but also a dangerous breach in operational security, stating clearly that such actions would face zero tolerance. National news ran with the story, with headlines screaming, "Black General detained in full uniform, Pentagon steps in." Yet Alana never chased cameras or attention. She didn't make any public statements, didn't post rants online. She simply went on with her duties, reporting to the classified briefing she had been scheduled to, laid, punctual and dignified, her shoulders squared in uniform. Because true authority doesn't need retaliation, it moves through truth. And Alana had both the evidence and the rank to make it count. Within a month, and Alana had both the evidence and the rank to make it count. Within a month, both officers were permanently dismissed, not only for that day's events, but because the review uncovered multiple previous complaints that had been buried. Alana took this moment and turned it into a mission. She partnered with senior officials to push for required bias and military protocol training across law enforcement agencies. With the Dodd's support, she led the creation of a national PSA campaign that spread across military bases, police departments, and federal agencies. It featured a powerful message. This is a general. This is what earned respect looks like. And this is what responsibility must demand. She never acted out of bitterness. She moved with purpose, focused on changing the system for the next generation. Because for her, it was never about one mistake. It was about every black woman who had ever been doubted, ignored, or dismissed despite wearing the stripes they earned. And to every officer who believes they can judge someone's worth by appearance, Alana Greer delivered a message they won't forget. My uniform doesn't shield me from your prejudice, but my position makes sure your ignorance won't hurt the next one. Next time, don't just think twice before you profile. Think about who might be on the other end of that radio.